All right, my friends, what is happening? Check the mic. Made sure to smile right when this started so that maybe the graphic that it chooses for the thumbnail won't be a hideous expression of myself. How's everybody doing? Beautiful day in the neighborhood, as one of my heroes and role models would always say, Mr. Rogers. Love that guy very, very much. And today kind of got a special episode. I'm not going to tell a story. I'm just going to actually jump right into it. I'm going to set this bad boy for 30 minutes because I want to keep these short. And yeah, just going to get right into it. And today I really felt led to share about what to do when everything in your life is going wrong. Like when everything in your life seems to be going completely off the rails, what do you do? And I think it's a pretty important question, right? If you've ever been lost before, you know the utter exasperation of driving forward but not quite knowing whether or not the direction that you're going is the right direction. And that's so frustrating. You could be absolutely going in the right direction, but if you're not sure about it in your own heart, like, you have no peace, you're just frustrated, everything annoys you, and it's just a terrible way to drive or travel anywhere, right? So, what to do when everything in your life is going horrible? What do? Is that you right now? What have you tried? What hasn't worked? What has worked? Because truth be told, I think a lot of people never get around to actually changing things when things are going really bad. They just kind of get on the hamster wheel every single morning because guess what? It takes a lot of intentionality to change course and change direction in life. To do anything, it takes time, it takes reflection, it takes intentionality. And if you're not intentional about changing, no offense, but what's the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over and over again, but expecting different results. And yet that's the way so many of us live life. And I'm just being really honest. I kind of reminding myself right now of the intensive Care Bear meme that I made a couple weeks ago about sometimes the tough love is the best love. Love is such a funny thing because it's so different in so many different situations. But the thing is, if your life is going off the rails and everything is falling apart, nothing is going right, and you get up every morning just hoping that things will change, it's kind of silly. Like, really, you know? And so I have some practical tools that I hope will help anybody that needs to get out of a rut, anybody that's trying to get out of a situation that's really bad, like where just nothing seems to work in their life. I know I've been there myself. And thanks, Kai. I appreciate it. Good to see you too. And yeah, I hope they help. But yes, like sometimes if you want to do anything in life, you got to know 2 points. You got to know where you are, and you got to know where you want to go. And so right now, if your life is crazy, the next couple minutes are kind of going to be geared toward you. So the first thing in changing and what to do if everything is going wrong in your life is to just take a moment to reflect. My dad has this great quote. He says, learning is in the reflection. And unless we take the time to intentionally reflect in our lives about where we've come, where we're going, what we want to do, what's going right, what's not going right, nothing will ever change. Like nothing awesome ever very few things awesome ever happen without intentionality. What's going on? Great to see ya. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, brother. Great to see you, Alex. And I tell you what, like that reflection, that time that you take to really consider about where you're going, and where you've come is so essential to changing the course of your life, because it's the equivalent of like just going down the road, not knowing whether or not you're going in the right direction, and not changing course, and just hoping that it'll work out in the end. That's a terrible plan for driving and travel and vacations. It's a terrible plan for life. And so what I want to encourage you to do today is the first thing is to take time for yourself to reflect. Take time for yourself to consider where you are and really try to step away from the noise of everyday life, because it's so noisy. And I'll be honest, the only time I can do that is early in the morning. Once everybody gets up, once life starts, it is almost impossible to drown out the noise. I have to put earplugs in. Like every single day, I have to put earplugs in, and then I have to put like shooting headphones over that, because I have such sensitive hearing, which is a miracle considering all the years of music that I did. But so the first thing to do, if your life is going off the rails and nothing is going right, you need to take time to reflect, okay? Because the fact that you're taking that time is so important, because you're acknowledging that something's not right, and knowing is half the battle, right? Well, knowing what to do is that other half, and that's what I'm hoping to encourage you with today. So first thing is take time to reflect and really assess. Journaling is a beautiful thing. I cannot encourage you enough to get those thoughts out of your head, to really put to paper what is going on inside. One of my favorite heroes, in Holocaust survivor, her name is Dr. Edith Eger. She says, expression is the greatest cure we have for depression. And I'll say that again because it's so good. Expression is the greatest cure we have for depression. And it's because when you don't, hey, what's up, Aldo? Great to see you, man. When you have those negative thoughts bouncing around inside, do you think they're going to do any good? Or do you think they're just going to mess stuff up in there? And plus, nothing gets done when you don't externalize, do something about the things that are inside of you, right? So journaling is an awesome thing to do, to get it out, because there's something happens too when words come from your mind to your hand and onto paper. It's like when you're reading your own words, there's something that happens when you see your own words and your own thoughts and your own emotions through your own eyes. It's just a different faculty, a different context. It's almost like it takes a different pathway in your brain to process, and I think that in and of itself is helpful. So just that time that you take to reflect, to really assess and write down where you're at, what's going on in your heart. It can be anything. There's no grammar errors. Nobody needs to ever see the stuff that that's going on in your mind, but to get it out is just so important. And then to be able to read what you wrote and process it through your eyes is so important. When can you not write? Well, how about like when you can't write? Maybe is what your guess said. Aaron, great to see you, by the way. Awesome to see you. So, talk to text works. Verbally processing. I'm a verbal processor, and so I need to talk things through out loud. You could talk to the wall. You could talk to somebody else, get something like a good confidential friend, like that you could just kind of share your heart with, or you could pray. Praying is a great way to process and get that stuff out of you that's inside of you that you need to deal with, right? And so after you're kind of assessing where you are, where you're like, just getting that stuff out of you, the next thing what you want to do is you want to, so I don't know what it means to join me on the video. I don't know what that means. I'm so sorry, Aaron. I have no idea what that even means. So, Aldo, so to answer your question, the idea is what to do when everything in life is going terrible. And the first step is to really take the time to reflect. Take the time to get the thoughts that are inside of you out in some way. Typing them, speaking them, talk to text, sharing with a friend, talking to yourself. It doesn't matter. Praying. Praying is just so important. But then the second thing is, it's so important for you to approach changing course and solving your problems from a perspective of faith and encouragement and hope. Because here's the thing. Here's a little secret. If you do not have hope, it is literally impossible to change. If you feel helpless, okay. Thank you for explaining that, Aldo. I appreciate that. If you don't feel like you can change anything, if you feel helpless to change, there's nothing good that can come out of that. It literally makes it impossible to change. So the very first thing after you've got kind of like an assessment of where you're at, like you've done the time to reflect and just really, I'm so sorry to see that, Aaron. I think I have a couple things to share with that specifically. The thing, and this is so like perfect to say that because that's actually the next thing I was going to talk about, is when you feel so discouraged, when you feel so deflated, when you feel so defeated, one of the best things you can do is encourage yourself. And how do you encourage yourself? Well, here's one thing that I want you to never, ever forget. And that is You have successfully overcome 100% of the challenges you have so far faced in life. Do you realize that? Like, you may be at a really bad spot right now. Like, you may be at a really, really dark, very terrible spot right now. I know I came through a really long season. It was like a year and a half. I went through a divorce, and I was in the camp of like, once married, never like, I'm never gonna divorce, and like wanted to rip it out of the dictionary and everything like that. And it was just such an awful relationship that we both decided that it was the right thing to do. And even though we both agreed that it was absolutely just soul-sucking and destroying both of us, it was still so hard after making that decision. Even though we both agreed, even though we both knew it was for the better, that separation is so brutal. And it was actually the lowest point I had ever been in my adult life. And the thing is like, divorce is like one of the worst things a human can ever go through. It is just absolutely soul crushing. And for so many reasons. And one of the things that was hardest for me to get over, and I think that I was grieving, was that invested time. All that time and energy and emotion and everything I poured into this relationship, it was just gone. It was just gone. And mine was like completely amicable. Like, we both agreed it was a good thing. Like, when we split up everything, it was like we went to separate sides of the house and we wrote down what we think, how things should be divided. When we came back together, it was the same exact list. Like, we both completely agreed. It was like the best possible outcome. Didn't have any kids. Like, married 7 years, felt like 47. But we both agreed. We didn't even have to get a lawyer, right? We just went through a, what do they call those? A mediator, right? And it was still so soul crushing. I would never recommend anybody. I would never recommend it for anybody. Of course, who really chooses divorce? Well, some people do, but the point is, when you go through something like that, it takes time to rebound. It's like death. Really, it is death, because something that was alive is now dead. And something that was so special and valuable to you is now no longer. And you have to go through a grieving process. And I think it was the coach from UCLA, I can't think of his name right now, but he said life is 1% what happens to you, 99% how you respond. And so in dealing with things in life that are so challenging and so hard, it goes back to the first video that I ever made. It's breaking down things into the things that you can control, the things that are inside of your control, and the things that are outside of your control. Say you go through like a terrible breakup or a terrible divorce, and it's not your fault. The other person just walked out on you, right? And you're just left with the wreckage, right? They made that decision themselves. That is outside of your control. You can't play the what if, why game. If I would have only, coulda, shoulda. That is a poisonous game to play, because at the end of the day, you'll almost always never know the answer to those questions. Almost always, you will never know the answer to those questions, and you'll literally drive yourself insane or into a deep state of depression by asking them. Because, hey, guess what? The person who made that decision that you're left holding the baggage for, they might not even know why they did it. Because, hey, guess what? We're all jacked up. Like, we're all jacked up people. We all have pains, wounds. We've all made mistakes. We have regret. We have so many different things that we're all dealing with on a daily basis. And when you get two people that are broken and that are dealing and struggling with so many different things together, there's going to be like exposed nerves, that are going to affect another person. You said something maybe because you were frustrated, and it's like a level 1 on the intensity scale, but they respond in like you just like told them off and told them to just, go jump off a bridge, and just the worst language that you could think of, yelled at them, threw something, whatever, and you're like, well, I just said this, why did they respond? That's their issue. That's on them. Like how we send and receive signals is two totally different things, right? And so the first thing in really kind of getting your life together, if you're really trying to make changes, is to identify the things that are inside of your control, which is, here's the spoiler alert, basically you. And if you have kids or dependents, they're in your realm of responsibility too. Right? And then everything outside of what's in your control, you got to give it to God. Like, you got to let it go. You got to recognize that it's just not in your power to change that. It's not in your power to do anything about it. And the only thing you're responsible for is how you process that. And I think I said that, maybe it was in my second video, about when things happen to us in life, the story that we attach to the things that happen to us in life is so much more important than the actual thing that happens to us in life. Like, I feel like I need to say that again. The story you attach to the things that happen to you in life, the narrative you give yourself about that situation happening to you, is actually more important than the thing that actually happened to you. Now, that sounds crazy on the surface, but the reason is because sometimes in life, really bad things happen. And if you have a false narrative, if you have a wrong narrative about the things that happen to you, you're going to be walking around with this shame and this guilt and this inner turmoil and anxiety, and just, you're going to be constantly feeling like your life is getting squeezed out of you. But if you have, on the other side of things, an interpretation of the events of things that happen in life that is helpful to you, that is healing to you, that is beneficial to you, it makes all the difference in the world. Like for example, like, I made a lot of really bad decisions when I was young. I made so many terrible decisions when I was young, especially all the way up until when I was 21 years old. I made terrible, terrible decisions. I left a wreckage of ruined relationships. I was terrible to people, and I wasn't even aware of it. I knew I was like really rebellious and crazy with my parents, but I didn't really recognize the effect that I had on other people. And I hurt so many people, right? And then I became a Christian when I was 21. I had this crazy experience. One day I'll share it with you guys. Changed my life forever. But it wasn't until then that I looked back and I saw all this pain that I caused. And I'm telling you, like, that was another really dark season of my life, because I was like, it was a heavy weight to carry, right? And then, so what I ended up having to do is, like, make amends and just call all those people and apologize to them and just say, like, hey, I'm so sorry I did that, right? I didn't even know what I was, like, I was so blind. I was so selfish and self-consumed and just thinking about myself. I didn't even realize what I was doing. And so but if I never did that, if I never dealt with it, and I just carried on with life with that unresolved, like, I'm going to feel the weight of that regret, the weight of that remorse every single day of my life. What do you think that's going to do? How easy is it to be joyful and happy when you're carrying around the absolute, like, impossible weight to carry of mistakes made, of poor decisions that you can't change? Because that's another thing. You can't ask why when it comes to other people, because you'll never know. They might not even never know. And you can't go back. You can't go back. You can't drive a car effectively just looking at the rearview mirror. That's a problem. It's a train wreck. It's going to accident waiting to happen. And yet that's what a lot of people do. You got to look forward. What can I do now, today? And again, it goes right back to that. I feel like a broken record. It goes back to that dividing life into two columns, the things that you can control and the things that you can't. And if you are focusing any energy on things that you can't control, it's wasted at best, and it's detrimental and toxic at worst, because you can't do anything about it. And that's exasperating. It's so frustrating. And not only does it not help the problem, but it makes you feel even crappier about yourself in the process. And that's not good. And so that whole things that you can control, things that you can't control, is just such an important part to any healing process, to any change that you want to make in your life. And the reflection, taking the time to get with yourself, sit with yourself, and ask yourself, what am I really feeling in this moment? Like, there's no wrong answers. Just get it out. Write it down. Like, think about it. Like, it could be so many different things. But you have to express it. You have to get it out, and you have to try to distance yourself and look at it from an objective point of view. And praying is one of the best things you could possibly do. Because here's the thing, you guys. I have something I want to read. I don't normally do this. I mean, I've only done 5 or 6 of these, so I don't really know if I have a pattern established enough to say I don't really do this or I do normally do this. But I want to read something that I feel could be really beneficial for somebody. It says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Friends, who needs rest for their souls right now? Like, so much of society is not only mentally tired, is not only physically tired, is not only emotionally tired, they are soul depleted, soul exhausted. Like if you've ever been physically tired, that's one thing. Mentally tired, that's another thing. But when your soul is just so heavy laden and just you have no energy, it's like a dead battery. And you need to do something about that, because you can't live life with a dead battery. And those words I read were spoken 2,000 years ago by a guy named Jesus, who changed my life and the lives of millions of other people since that time. And he wants to take your burdens. The stuff that's weighing you down, the stuff that is crushing and sapping your soul, Jesus is saying, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden. The context of this is like an oxen that has a big yoke on it. Like, you've seen them in the old school days where they had a ox with a yoke pulling a sled or pulling a team of people or whatever to farm a field or whatever. Like, that's a lot of weight. And so many of us are walking around with this tremendous weight on our shoulders of a lot of things that we can't do anything about. It's outside of our control. Either it's in the past, or it's because of decisions somebody else made. Whatever it is. And you have, like, the invitation right here, right now, is for you to give all those heavy burdens, all those heavy things that are just weighing you down and sucking your soul, sapping your life, to give them to Jesus. And so right now, if you just want to take a moment, I wasn't expecting to do this, but I'm happy to do it because it could possibly change your life, to just close your eyes and think about all the things that are weighing you down in life, that are just crushing your soul. Just things that you don't know what to do about, things that have happened to you, things that you've done in your past, things that you're worried about in the future, whatever. And give them to Jesus. Like, literally say out loud or in your heart or your mind, God, I give these to you. I can't carry these anymore. Because a lot of you, if I could be totally honest, are carrying a backpack, 100-pound backpack. You're carrying a stack of 100-pound weights, and you're wondering why life is so hard to navigate. You're like tripping over stuff, you're stumbling, you're falling, and you're like, I wonder why this is so hard. Or you're trying to swim a triathlon, or run a triathlon, or bike in a triathlon. You're weighted down by all these things that you can't change, and that's causing anxiety, depression, substance abuse, anxiety, whatever it is. And if you want to change, if your life is going off the rails, you gotta recognize that you were never meant to carry all that weight. You can't carry all that weight. And that the invitation from Jesus is to give it to him. He wants to take that from you and help you carry it. All right? And so that's the first part. And then the second part is, a lot of times what kind of happens to me is we'll give him all of our stuff and we'll feel unburdened. We'll feel like so joyful in this moment. Like, we'll even, usually like it'll be accompanied with like a sigh. It'll be like, just like breathe out. And then you get up from your place and then you pick it back all up with you and you keep walking with it. The trick is to give it to him and trust that he can help you navigate all those things. But you were never meant to carry all that stuff on your own. Okay? So that's you got to unload that stuff. You got to give it to him. You got to ask him for help. That changed my life. I know it'll change yours too. If you will maybe it'll be the first time you ever pray to Jesus to help you to take your burdens. Maybe it'll be the first time. Maybe it'll be the 101st time, the 10,000th time. Maybe it'll be the time that you pray or try it one more time. Because we all need hope, my friends. I really felt that so heavily. Because if you don't believe that change is possible, if you don't believe that things can get better, it makes changing anything and having anything get better almost impossible. You have to believe that things can change. And even if it's just the tiniest spark of hope, cling to that. like it's a life raft. Thanks, Alex. Amen. Even if it's just the tiniest spark of faith, like just cling to it, like your life depends on it, because it really does. And it's, guys, like I've taken a personality test because I used to work with teenagers, and I'm actually like borderline problematically optimistic. So it's like my default setting. I'm super optimistic by nature. I can see the good in everything. And I was just in this soul crushing season for like years. It was like almost 2 years. And so like I never could fully appreciate and understand what that was like until I went through it. And that's one of the ways that God uses our pain, is that in going through that, it helps us understand others. And then we can have empathy and compassion for those same things and other people that they're going through. And that's the whole reason I'm doing these lives. If it wasn't for the comments of encouragement or messages or texts or whatever, like, hey, I use this as, like, I was talking to somebody and I remember what you said, or this something you said, like, really helped me. Like, I wouldn't do these because I really need the feedback, but it's not for me. Like, I'm doing it because I'm just sharing the things that have really helped me. And I really hope there's something in here every single time I go on that could help you as well. And I'm so honored that you would spend the time with me and that you would deem this worthy of that time, because time is the most precious thing we had. I had a friend message me today that a friend she's had since 10 years old, her friend's brother woke up, or she woke up and he was dead. I don't know what happened. I don't know anything about what happened. He's 36. Like, 10 out of 10 of us aren't making it out of here alive, right? And I said it in another broadcast. I'll say it again. D.L. Moody says it best. He said, the man or woman who is ready to die today is the best man or woman who is ready to live today, to truly live today. Because if you face that end, and if you've looked at it and you've kind of come to terms with it between your maker, between you and God, and then other people, and you've made amends where you need to make amends, and you have peace with yourself at that moment, then you can go forward. You take all that weight off you, then you can run your race, then you can live your life. But until you come to terms with your own mortality, until you deal with this stuff that you've been carrying around, like, everything is just hard, and it breaks my heart. Like, I can't even imagine how God feels, but so many people are walking around. I can almost feel just the heaviness that they carry. And I'm just here to tell you that you don't have to carry it. Like, Jesus, his invitation to you is like, hey, I'm happy to take that from you. What's that when they climb Everest? A Sherpa. He's like a Sherpa. He's like, hey, why don't you let me hang on and handle that? There's a Sherpa that just broke the world record for most climbs to Mount Everest, right? Like, climbing Mount Everest is like a colossal thing. People train for years for it. So many people die on the mountain. And this Sherpa has done it, like, I think it was like 239 times or something, right? He's like an old pro at it. Like, Jesus is a pro at carrying our heavy weights, the stuff that we can't deal with. And so that's a huge thing, is to give it to him and recognize when you can't. Like Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're struggling with addiction, they are one of the most effective organizations on planet Earth, filled to the brim at capacity with crazy people, I promise you. But I tell you what, at the end of the day, they're just the same as us. We're all dealing with our stuff, right? But it is one of the most effective tools for change in substance abuse you could ever imagine. But what's one of their first principles? It's the recognition that you can't change yourself. So far, you've been unable. Because I'm guessing, oh man, time's kind of cruising down here. I'm guessing if you're struggling right now, you're having a really hard time, and things like nothing is going right, everything's going off the rails, I'm guessing you've been trying in your own strength to do your own thing, to change your course, to make things better for a long time. How's it been going? Right? Maybe it's time to try a different approach. Maybe it's time to try something new. And maybe it's praying. Maybe it's just saying, God, you got to help me. If this guy's right, like, I'm going to give you a shot. Help me carry this load. I can't carry it anymore. And what do you have to lose, right? But that hope is so important. You have to believe. You have to have hope, right? I'm going to check on my notes here for the last minute. You have to try something different. You have to take the time to assess, to reflect, and you have to stay encouraged the best you can. because encouragement is in short supply, and you have to remember that you have survived and overcome 100% of the problems you've faced so far in life. You are 100% successful at figuring things out and making it this far. That's got to kind of feel pretty cool, right? And oh, great to see you, Mike. Oh man, appreciate that. Thank you so much, brother. And I just want to tell you, one of the things that you can do to stay encouraged the most is to change your inputs. Because, like, maybe I'll even include the playlist in the comments of this video, but whenever I'm feeling down, whenever I'm feeling discouraged, I have a curated playlist on YouTube that I've made of videos that just inspire me. They get my eyes off of myself. They change my perspective, because my friends, like, I just hit like a vein here of like just something so important, and that's perspective. Because sometimes just a slight change of perspective can change your whole life, right? But just sometimes those inputs, like the things that you're listening to, can change your whole life. Like, they can be the thing that gives you that spark of encouragement, that gives you that spark of hope, that spark of faith, and it can change your whole trajectory of a day. Like, because tiny changes make huge differences, right? If you've ever doubted the impact that a tiny object can make, like, you've never been trapped in a room with a mosquito before, right? Like, you just can't find, it's just buzzing everywhere. It's just tiny, but it makes a huge effect on you. And when you have positive things coming in your life to encourage you and to inspire you, it'll make all the difference in the world. So, wrapping that up, I will include a link. It's just a playlist, and every video is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but what I just do is I actually have a list of things. Like, when I'm in my best frame of mind, anyway, it's a whole nother story. Maybe I'll do that the next time. I did an energy audit, tracking the things that really inspire me, encourage me, help me, recharge me, and then I made a list of the things that really drain me and discourage me, and I gave everything a number on a scale of +10 to -10. Well, anyway, what I did is I recognized that listening to these motivational, inspirational videos on YouTube just caused my spirits to soar. And so on runs, I would listen to this list, and I created a playlist of it. And I'll share it with you guys. It's unlisted, or maybe this one's public. But if you are listening and you're just not connecting with the speaker or the kind of format or whatever, just skip it. Skip to the next one. And, let me know if it helps, because it certainly helps me. And truth be told, I don't even really watch the YouTube videos. I actually just listen to it while I'm doing other things, like while I'm driving or while I'm working out or whatever like that, because so some of the video quality, like the actual images and stuff like that, are not really what I access them for. So I don't even know all the quality of them. But anyway, you guys, I'm so humbled that you've been with me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your continued comments, encouragement. I need desperately to know if these are helping. Like, if there's anything positive to come out, like I said, I feel like this is part of my purpose, part of my calling is to, like, help encourage people, right? But I need to know if it's working, right? Because if I just think that this is, and it's not really helping anybody, that's just a lose-lose, and I want to pivot, and I want to learn, and I want to adjust. So I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you so much for all the comments here. It was great to see all of you guys, and my heart goes out to you if you're struggling, if you're hurting right now. I just want you to know it's not going to be like this forever. It's not. And I hope that I've given some tools that have maybe helped you. It can maybe help you. And if there's something more that you think I can offer, please reach out. And I would love to help address and solve and just kind of lighten the load myself for you. So thanks again so much for watching, Trevor. Love you too, man, so much. You are awesome, dude. Crack me up every time, and I just appreciate you so much. And thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.